for me personally, we have to be a beacon of hope. We have to help each other. And I think that's basically where it's at. You know, we have to be connectors. We have to be people that say, okay, well, this community needs to be better. If we can uplift a community, you know, with our art, you know, we can say, okay, well, this area that wasn't worth that much money, we put our painting into it. You know, we do art and everything, and then it becomes much more expensive. You know, we can do some really interesting stuff like that. You know what I mean? Then then we're doing something. We're creating something. We have to be more than just creators of paint and canvas. We have to be creators of the entire community.
Hello, everyone. This is Alonzo Williams, and you are now tuned into the Everyday Stranger podcast. Let's get it. So you were just listening to an excerpt from today's guest. He goes by the name of Saulso. He is a very, very, very talented, in my eyes, legendary artist who is also the creator of CRAY magazine, which is a conceptual art and photography magazine that looks at what is new and avant-garde in society. It also showcases one artist or one theme that has worked with an everlasting impact on how we live and grow in this world. Some good stuff. So today in this episode, me and Saulso had a discussion about the importance of art, the role that it plays on our society, and why it's really important to introduce it to our youth at a very early age. We also speak about the relationship between art and social media and the digital world in general. And it's very, very, very interesting discussion. I was very, very honored to be able to interview this man. I'm telling you, he's an amazing artist. Definitely want to check out his Tumblr at craymagazine.tumblr.com. Of course, I have all the information in the description box. But look, in the meantime, we're going to jump right into it, man. This is episode number 16 of the Everyday Stranger podcast featuring Saulso. All right, y'all, enjoy. Peace. Hey man, well look, we on the air, so I'm gonna go ahead and ask you what I ask all my guests in the beginning of the show is what has life's greatest lesson been for you?
Well, that's a good question. I'm not done with life yet, but
okay,
because I know I probably have some more coming.
Yeah.
But my greatest lesson is always learn, that what you have deep inside of you is more important. Than what people try to put on you. Okay. And what you basically have inside of you is what gets you to the next step that you want to be, where you want to be at, so it's kind of important, to keep yourself working.
I like that.
So
I like that, man. So yeah, I mean, it's true though. A lot of us do focus more on what's going on the outside of us rather than what's on the inside and everything.
Right, exactly. So I'm really about the inside. So.
That's what I'm talking about, man.
Yeah,
cool,
yeah,
bro.
Exactly.
Man, so look, I remember we met. I think it was it was more than 5 years ago.
5 years ago, that's right.
Right in front of the, I think it was the Houston Center for Photography.
Yep.
Sure. And I remember this is one of the first time I found out that you are an artist. And you were saying that you had a magazine in, correct me if I'm wrong, was it Paris or was it in Italy?
Well, actually, the magazine actually traveled, but it was just something I kind of started myself.
Right.
It was called CRAY magazine. And the good thing about it was just a small little project. I kept it to myself, kept everything, kind of to myself. But what happened was it grew, and it actually kind of helped people, that were in different places like Paris, and there were different artists that just kind of contacted me, and that became an open door, and that's kind of what it was. It was like an open door for artists to display their work. I had a lot of problems a long time ago, with trying to get my own work into magazines, and I felt that rejection. I didn't like the rejection thing, so I said I'm going to make an open project, which is CRAY magazine, to where people can submit their work. I can look at it, tell them, give them feedback about it, and say, okay, well, let's see what we can do with it and make it, better, or we can actually go ahead and just put it into the magazine and just go ahead and, distribute it and see what happens. So it became pretty popular in Europe, because a lot of European artists weren't getting the exposure that they needed. So it was just really, really great for that.
I love that, man, because that kind of reminds me, like throughout my career as an artist, photographer, and everything, I there was a moment in my life where I waited for, you know, a big name to, you know, allow me to hop on the boat with them. And,
right, exactly.
You know, maybe had to do with, you know, reputation or degree level or whatnot. I just couldn't get on, man. So I reached that point in my life, and I was like, well, do I need to keep waiting, or should I just like kind of create like my own opportunity? And that was the one thing that at the time of my life when you had told me that, because you did tell me something along the lines of that, is that, you know, you have to kind of, you know, create your own path, and then, you know, use that for what it is that you felt lacked in other brands and whatnot. And I felt that was very inspiring, bro, when I heard that from you.
Oh, thank you. That's what it's about, man. We have to inspire people. But the whole message that was behind that was, you know, you can't let someone stop you. Your dreams are very important. You know, they didn't give them to you just because, you know, just to waste them. You know, you got your talents also. You can't waste your talents either. Definitely. So those two things are extremely important. You got to keep those things going, because, you know, this world you may have the next great idea. And if you listen to other people that tell you, no, this is not a great idea, then you just cut yourself short. You know,
yeah, exactly. That's true.
You don't know if you have a great idea. You know,
right.
I mean, with CRAY magazine, it was crazy. I met a lot of great people, and some of the people use, you know, the magazine as a reference. You know, reference points. I had one artist that actually is in Vogue now. You know, just by using my little small magazine. You know, just a jumping start. So that's the good thing about, you know, starting your own thing and just getting people, you know, recognition that needs it, because you just don't know what they're going to do with their talent.
Yeah.
You know, you got to give people a chance. So
definitely, man.
That's what I'm about.
This is a good way to kick it off, then, man. I loved it. So
cool, very good.
Yeah, man. So I have a few questions for you, man. If you can describe the kind of work that you do now outside the magazine, but you as an artist, what is it that you feel like you specialize in the most?
Connection. 100% connection. That's basically an art form within itself, but it's connection. And everything that I do actually deals with either ancestors or something that's happened in the past, but it's connected to what's going on in the future. So it all kind of coincides. And I think that's what's so important, to have that connection with the past. Right. And it gives you inspiration for the future. We are, you know, our past, you know, in so many cases, and we are our ancestors. So I kind of build on that. I like to build on that a lot.
I love that, man. As an artist, what role does an artist play in society, you believe, or what role should an artist? What role should an artist play in society, you believe? That's a great question. It differs between, you know, society to, you know, place to place. But for me personally, we have to be a beacon of hope. Right. You know, right. Exactly. I don't know if you understand. It's kind of like, you know, we have to say, okay, well, it's okay to do this. It's okay to do this, especially with our younger artists. We can't just say, okay, cut off and say, oh, I'm just going to make as much money as I possibly can, hang out with this person, do this gallery show. No. We have to help each other. Yeah. And I think that's basically where it's at. You know, we have to be connectors. We have to be people that say, okay, well, this community needs to be better. You know, and that's the thing. If we can uplift a community, you know, with our art, you know, we can say, okay, well, this area that wasn't worth that much money, we put our painting into it. You know, we do our, you know, art and everything, and then it becomes much more expensive. You know, we can do some really interesting stuff like that. You know what I mean? Then you know, then we're doing something. We're creating something. We have to be more than just creators of paint and canvas. We have to be creators of the entire community. Right. And I think that's where I'm at with my art. I want to create something for the entire community. You know, I keep to myself a lot, but my whole entire mission is for all people. You know, I don't really keep it. You know, but I'm thinking on that level. I always think on the level of all people. You know, and how bringing them all together. That's what you're saying. I like. What got you into? What made you pursue art? When was the day that Saulso said, "Hey, man, look, I consider myself an artist." What do you remember that day?
I remember that day clearly, man. I was drawing on the wall of my house when I was young.
Yeah.
My mother gave me a piece of paper, and she said, "You need to draw on this piece of paper instead of this beautiful wall we got." So I started drawing on the paper, you know what I mean? And from there, I just kind of grew, you know, because my mother's a great influence when I was younger, and I think every young mother, our father should be able to do this. Take your kids to the museum.
Yeah.
You know, regardless of what they don't understand what's going on, make sure that you explain it to them and to show them different pictures. Because my mother used to do that to me. She used to show me, you know, Picasso, and she was trying to explain it as best as she could. You know, and it was just a beautiful thing. You know, we would go to the bus. We were poor, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But we kind of I grew from that. You know, because I would have to, you know, name every time I come out, I would have to name every artist. Now I know every artist. You know.
Wow. Okay.
So that's a good thing for a kid to have, you know, to grow up with.
Man,
so
that's like she kind of just brought you up into like a whole new different language in a sense, you know. Like...
Yeah, of course. Yeah, she's a poet herself, so she loves to write poetry. But you know, she kind of got me into it. My father's a musician, so we all had art in the family. So it was kind of one of those things. But when it came to painting and stuff, I was the only painter, you know, in the house.
Wow.
You know?
Wow, man, that's amazing, bro. And I mean, okay, so your mother, she pretty much she was a strong influence in your art career. Of
course. Yes.
What were like some of the? Because I'm like, how was the process though? Was it like a quick, okay, you know, I start off kind of like an amateur or whatever, and then like a quick, I don't know, upgrade to you becoming like a master artist per se, you know, like what was the process in between, you know, you first started and who you are now?
Well, what happened is, I mean, a lot of things had to happen, you know, and that's what's so crazy about it. I mean, about my first art, you know, I was about 16, 17. I was actually into graffiti, and I was pretty big into graffiti. And I loved doing, you know, writing on walls, you know, just tearing up stuff. Unfortunately, I was a bad kid, but you know,
I mean, it is what it is.
It was a stepping stone, exactly. It was a stepping stone. But I learned that, you know, I learned from artists. I learned from other graffiti artists at the time. You know, I was just learning all of these different things about colors and stuff. But I learned the most about color from a person that they said probably shouldn't be able to teach you anything. Right. But he really did, you know, and that's what's so great about it. You know, you learn from everyone. You know, you don't really learn just in school. You learn from everyone. Right. You know, he taught me how to mix colors. He taught me how to do this and how to do that. So you know, this journey, you know what I mean, really happened. It wasn't really an academic journey. You know, I consider sometimes when I do my work, I'm really, you know, doing from my heart. So it's self-taught, you know, in a way, and it's something that's inside of me. Right. It's always been inside of me. Wow. But it's just the building on of things, you know. Then I got into school, you know, and then I got to college. I mean, it was just one of those things where, you know, you get these professors that are just so into art, and they teach you, and they help you fall in love with it again in a different way. Right. So this is kind of the basis. I had the basis of what to do, but then when it came to them, they basically gave me all of this, you know, other ingredients. So it became this wonderful soup, you know, which is good. You know, you're able to eat, you know, a hearty soup, you know, but it was really good, right, you know, from my soul. So it was really good.
Nice, man. But, I want to backtrack to what you had said. We'll go back into like the childhood again. You had mentioned how you were a bad kid. Do you? In that case, like, how do you describe a bad kid, and then how do you feel maybe that part of your childhood has impacted you as far as expressing yourself through art? Do you feel like there's a connection in that, or do you feel like you was able to find some kind of freedom after discovering art and everything?
Well, that's the good thing about art. It was my freedom in a way, because I had a choice. You know, in where I was growing up, you know, in a bad kind of an area that was not so great, but that was a choice. You know, you either really good at basketball, You know,
Yeah.
are you,
Right.
you know what I'm saying? Are you getting some kind of, anything else? But art was something so different to me that it kept me away from all of the really, really bad things I could have been doing. And I say bad kid, I don't really mean it as in, I'm shooting up people. No, nothing like that. I was just one of those kids that really just, I love to, draw on walls, and I was illegal at the time. It's still legal. It's still illegal, but it was just how it was,
Yeah.
But yeah, when it comes to that, I mean, that question, I mean, I don't think any kid is bad. I'm gonna be real honest with you. I mean, it's just we're just a product of whatever our environment is.
Yeah.
Our environment sometimes will grow us into this, so-called some kind of monster. But I don't think any kid's really bad.
Yeah.
To be real honest,
I definitely agree. Yeah, I mean, I look at my childhood, right, and maybe back then I would say I was bad, but now when I look at myself now, I say, no, you know what, I was really like in search of something, like
exactly. That's where I was.
That sometimes that's it's crazy. That's also like there's something could be something that we probably didn't want at that time. We didn't think that it was really possible to, to help us find that door to freedom per se.
Right.
So photography. Like my uncle, he was a photographer for 30 plus years, and he would always talk to me about photography. And it never interested me really as a kid. Like I wanted to rap and play basketball, cause that was what everyone else was doing. You mentioned artists to your peers back then. I mean, art to your peers back then, and they're not really like thrilled about that, So I would tuck that in. Now, years pass by, and I end up in Houston and somewhere where I have to make new friends. Everything all the decisions I make are up to me now, right? So that day that I found the camera, like it was definitely like that doorway to expression. I was like, wow, I feel so safe around this thing, and I feel more comfortable, and I almost feel like I have a voice by just taking photographs of things that really interest me. And so now it's like, okay, I used to look at myself as like bad or introverted. Then I was like, nah, I think I was just kind of searching, and maybe I searched in a rebellious way, but
right, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But yeah, I think so. How important do you feel? I mean, how important do you feel art? Because I mean, I'm pretty sure like I know the answer to this, but you could probably break it down more. How important do you feel it is for children to be introduced to the arts?
Thank you for asking that question.
Yeah.
I can't thank you that enough. It helps in brain activity, and that's what's so. It's kind of, you give them the science, the technology, the everything else, but you don't give them the artwork. They're not going to be as imaginative of what they can do with this science and technology and everything else. Right. So they got to have the imagination. The most important thing that a kid can have is imagination.
Right.
Even Albert Einstein has to kind of, back that, by saying, imagination is more important than intelligence. Yeah. So we have to give these kids this back. This has to come back into the realm. Or we're going to have a lot of people walking around with phones.
Yeah.
Being controlled by phones, and and they're not thinking about anything new, and then nothing's going to become new. We can take that phone, make it into something totally different. Where they actually have a screen, where they don't have to have a phone. You got to have that imagination in order to see that.
Yeah.
So it's extremely important. Art is extremely important because it helps that one brain. I mean, I used to play with Legos for hours. You know what I mean? Building castles. Legos were the thing.
Yeah.
But you're building these castles. You're building all of these things. You're building all this stuff. But you're imagining what this could be. And a lot of architects that I know to this day blame Legos for what they're doing now. So that's the whole thing. It's that imagination that kept them going.
Man, yeah, that's a great point, bro. I mean, and man, because you were saying something. I had lost my train of thought because I was trying to hold that question for a minute, but yeah. Oh yeah. So I was reading a book called Deep Work by an author named Cal Newport, and he was speaking on how because one of the things, like when speaking on cell phones, like they were saying that cell phones basically can keep one from being bored, like it's supposed to be like this cure for boredom, but what this author was speaking of was like, hey, boredom is actually a good thing because
exactly,
it forces you, or it helps you kind of accept that whole process of like the creative process, because like new ideas come from, you could just be laying on the couch and like just in deep thought. And then, I don't know, you see an ice cube in your glass, and all of a sudden you're like, man, I got a bright idea just from looking at an ice cube,
Exactly.
But with the cell phone thing, and sometimes we'll scroll a lot and everything, we end up almost trying to find inspiration that way, I guess. And maybe that could be good sometime. And in some cases, I feel like it may not be the best idea, being that you're almost replicating something that you saw. Like you're intentionally replicating something that you saw,
right.
Rather than allowing that idea to come like naturally out of the mind or whatever. Like, what are your thoughts on like the connection between art and like the digital world today, like social media and everything?
You had to ask that question. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm very old school. I do believe that there has to be a certain amount of non-communication in order to kind of get something going. The cell phones now, really what they do and what they're doing is taking your mind. So you may see something really, really great online. Say it's Instagram, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm supposed to say it, but you see this. You see this online. You say, "Wow, this image is so great. Let me try to redo this image. Let me try to do this. Let me try to do that."
Yeah.
And you try to make it your own, but still, your voice is not really heard. So, in order for your own voice to be heard, you got to close your eyes. It's just some deep. It's some deep within. You know what I mean? You got to meditate on your own level, because you're going to always be on someone else's level if you look at what other people are doing. So technology is taking the essence, I guess I can say it like that, the essence of oneself creating artwork and saying, okay, well, this is my own thing. And I think that's a bad thing. That's what gets me about art. I would love for the kids to say, okay, well, if I'm going to have my own voice, I'm not going to dress like this person. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do what I see.
Right.
I'm going to do something that's totally my own.
Mm-hmm.
That's
true.
But I don't. That's exactly what the cell phone does. It allows you to say, okay, well, I'm going to scroll through all these images. And another thing with the technology thing is this: it's so fast. Yeah. Everyone's famous.
Super
How many people?
Right
everything's instant gratification, and there's no time for anyone to really grasp what's going on with an image. It's kind of if you go to a museum versus you being on your cell phone, you're going to scroll up. If you don't like a picture, you can't do that at a museum. You can't take the picture down. You see, So that allows you to sit and wonder why you don't like this picture.
Yeah.
And then in a circle, you actually begin to love the image because you say, well, God, there's so many different things that's wrong with it, but I do like this, and this.
Right.
You got to have that time. Time is so imperative. But we're losing it.
Yeah, and I totally agree with that. And me, I'm definitely more on the old school side than the new school. Though I keep up with a lot of the changes, but at the same time, I don't. For example, a new iPhone comes out all the time.
Thank you.
I'm still on 6, and I heard there's like 11. I'm staying
exactly.
And if I can, bro, I'll stay on 6. I'm probably not going to leave anytime soon, but I'll study the specs and see how what's so fascinating about it to everyone, and just so I can just for the news sake, But it has indeed. One of the difficulties that I've had when speaking with people about ideas is I'm always giving this advice that's not that you can't Google or you can't find. It's really just based off like my own experience, right? And
right, exactly.
A lot of times people are asking me for ideas, like, so what do you think about this? And then they show me something that I've never done before. And I'm like, it's difficult to say, but I was like, well, you may want to check with that artist, because maybe that's
there you go.
Yeah, because
there you go.
And so with me, and I have a problem with this. It's kind of like So let me see. I've been a photographer for 10 years, right? And I'm working on a documentary, and I am learning how important it is to document things and really not put them on social media.
Right.
And the reason being is because I'm looking at myself 10 years ago, right? Speak about, it's my whole evolution from then to now, right? And a lot of this stuff, had I put on social media, it just would have it would have been like, smoke in the wind, would have came.
There you go. That's my point.
So that's I totally agree with you on that. That's one of my difficulties right now with trying to juggle trying to maintain my craft while just trying to find ways to involve myself in social media without messing up my original ideas, I guess you could say.
Yeah, but don't get me wrong. I mean, there's something that's interesting about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I'm not gonna lie to you. Instagram is very interesting. It keeps you going. It keeps you looking at what's going on, what's new. It is there is a bad part to it. You can get addicted. There is an addiction out there, and I think a lot of the younger or people are kind of getting into that addiction, but not even knowing it because it's becoming a part of the norm so quickly.
Yeah,
I remember 1980s stuff, 1990s when we didn't have any of that stuff.
Right.
And we had to go out to see each other. We had to go ahead and say, "Hey, what are you doing? Let's go ahead and do that."
Yeah.
But there's not a lot of that. We're not going to text anybody or talk to anybody on the phone. We're going to go see them. So it's that.
Yeah. True, man. I'm even worked. I mean, that's something. It's this. I had this idea, right? Like, what if I were to like go back in the time and use the things that I used, then, like for example, I had bought a new Nokia phone, right? And this is like whenever I want to be in like my fasting from social media moments and everything. But even now with my iPhone, I do this thing where like I have like favorites, right? And then I'll schedule my phone to be on do not disturb mode during a specific amount of hours. And if anyone were to text me, then an automatic message would send back to them that, hey, if you want to text, I'll respond to you between the hours of 5 to 7 p.m. or something like that. Otherwise, you can always call me. And because I guess because lately I've been prioritizing phone calls more than text because like a lot of things can get lost in transition when you don't have a voice attached to it. It's still weird to me. It's something I'm still trying to adjust to. But
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, man. But
even when you say the Texas, I'm gonna bring you back to that.
Yeah.
That's changed language. We are changing language as we speak. Things are changing and things are dying out. People don't write letters anymore, right? Half of these young kids are not writing letters and stuff. So the whole entire language is changing. They're gonna know IDK or they're gonna know what that means, versus. So this is gonna be the norm. We have to understand this is what's happening. We're changing.
Yeah, man.
The whole entire.
So, man, let's get back to the art then, man. I want to speak about, or just life in general. What has been a real life situation that like really inspired you?
Man, there were so many. I'm gonna be real honest with you. That's the crazy. I'm glad you asked that because there really was so many of them.
Yeah.
I'm one of those people that are always in constant wonder. I'm never out of constant wonder. I'm like, wow, this is really interesting. Or this is this. I'm always wondering about different things, and there's always somebody that can teach you something. Right. I did have one teacher that one gentleman I actually sat down and I didn't know who he was. I was just I used to work at the bookstore at Borders Books Music, and he would come in and he was an older cat, and he was one of the he looked like a very interesting person. A lot of people didn't talk to him, because they thought he was just really crazy or something. But I didn't, I was one of those kind of people that just kind of was open, and I found out that he was actually an artist. And he was an artist a long time ago back in the 60s, and he used to work with a lot of different, major artists at the time, and musicians. And the craziest thing is his knowledge that he had was beautiful. You know,
right.
that's what's so crazy. We overlook people that have really beautiful knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Some of these old cats that have been through it, aren't in the know.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's so crazy about it. And some people that we have in the know don't really know. You feel me on that?
Yeah, bro.
It's kind of a circle, but it's strange. But back to inspiration. I mean, there's been a lot of people, but there's one person that really inspired me in photography is Anthony Barboza. I don't know if you heard of him before.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, Anthony Barboza is really, really big. He actually called me one time.
Wow.
It was the craziest call. Yeah, he gave me a phone call. I had emailed him enough to where he phone called me, and he basically, you know how it is, and he was kind of telling me, he said, "Did you really want to know how it is to be a photographer?" And I was telling him, I was like, "Yeah, of course I want to know how it is to be a photographer. I mean, that would be, great."
Mm-hmm.
And he tells me, he said, it's blood, sweat, and tears. It's hard work. You got to do this. There's a lot of things that you have to do in order to get to where you want to be. So it's just not a jump, hop, skip, and a jump. It isn't.
Right.
And I found out now. I know this now that half of the stuff that we're doing, it's not that. Us artists are sometimes struggling, but as long as we're learning, we're doing something.
Yeah.
It's really not about the money. I mean,
no, it's not,
nothing. Nothing we do is about the money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Regardless if we're successful or not.
Yeah.
It's not about that.
No, it's not.
If we're not, you would not be a photographer if it was about the money.
No, definitely not. And I tell people that a lot, bro. Like and sometimes I was thinking about like even like in 9-to-5 jobs, right? Like. Yeah. I know how when some people get hired and like they have like this burst of energy, they're new, and a lot of times what determines when they start complaining about they need more money is when a lot of times for some reason they don't feel appreciated at the job, and so at the end of the day, like, and this is just me like studying, and then I did like a study on Google as well to see if my thoughts were accurate, but at the end of the day, I don't think human beings do anything for money, but I think it becomes like something that compensates for something that they don't like or something they feel they're suffering in.
Exactly.
So now if you go to something that you love, photography, speaking of, then you really, if you're passionate about it, you're really not thinking about the money. You'll probably take it if it's offered to you, and you may, ask for it here and there, but at the core of things, I don't think artists do what they do for money. At the core of things. Now, other things, of course, play a role that we end up wanting to get paid for certain things, but
exactly,
but we don't like make pieces of art and say, okay, let me see, I'm gonna sell this for. Yeah, before I make this, let me write down how much I'm gonna charge for this. It doesn't work.
The world ain't gonna. It is not like that, and that's what's so strange. I mean, even if they, how they run. I wish I had some time to talk to kids at HSPVA or somewhere of those schools where they actually are teaching kids art. In a very, very intense way.
Yeah.
Because that's one thing I really want to teach them. It's not the factor of all of this money and this, that, and the other, and the fame and the hype that you might get. And no. You know what I mean? And there's so many of them out there that are just searching for this. Yeah. That's a trap.
Yeah, big time.
It really is. Yeah. In so many cases, it's a trap because you think that you're going to have all the success, and when you get out there and it's not successful, then you're doubting yourself.
Yeah.
You see, so that's the key. You gotta maintain self, and that's what I said at the beginning. You gotta understand it. No, you're not doing this for that. You're doing it for the love of something. And the same thing with CRAY magazine. They didn't make any money.
Right.
Really major money, but it caused how can I say it? It caused connections between people, and that is valuable. Happiness is for me is my new currency. I'll say that again. Happiness is my new currency. I mean, if something's making me happy, then I got money.
Right,
that's my money. Happiness is my money.
Yeah.
Because you can't buy that.
True.
If you make a person happy, You make a person, really delighted about what's going on in life, or make somebody excited about this art piece that you just did, or you make somebody excited about an art piece that they see on the wall.
Right.
That's true payment.
Mm.
To the utmost, most for an artist. It really is, because gosh, you get paid $1 million and nobody really sees your work.
Yeah,
you got to think about it.
Yeah,
what have you done? In your whole entire life.
Man, that would be like an awkward scenario. Like, you get all this money, but really all the work you did.
Yeah. Nobody. You're stuck in the middle or the bottom of a museum, vault. So that's
so
the extent
true,
of your life. So, you got these connections keep you alive, because these young kids are going to be like, whoa, I remember him when he told me this, this, and this. I remember Anthony Barboza for that phone call. Yeah. You feel me?
Yeah. So
the more connections we make, like that's what's going to help you stay alive. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
We remember why did we remember Van Gogh so much?
Yeah.
It wasn't so much as his art; it was basically because of what he went through in his life too.
Very true.
Same thing with Basquiat. It's these things we do, and how we connect people.
Man, crazy, man. So
that's important.
Man, that you get deep, bro. This is a great
conversation.
I want to talk about something that I know I experienced as an artist, and I believe others do too, but it's not mentioned enough. But are there moments when you feel, like as an artist, you feel lonely? And if so, and if so, like, what do you do to counteract?
No, it's crazy about that. I mean, if you're an artist, you gotta expect loneliness. That's an expectation. That should be something that you chalk on the board. Say, yeah, I'm gonna be freaking lonely.
Definitely.
But because that loneliness is not so much as a bad thing. As you say, it's like when you're being bored. It's not such a bad thing. It's not a bad thing.
Right.
It's a good thing. It teaches you a lot about yourself. And what you really need to know is knowing yourself as much as possible to be a great artist.
Yeah.
You can be a good artist.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You don't know yourself too much, but if you're a great artist, you know yourself through and through.
Man.
And that's the most important thing, so that loneliness time gives you that, and nothing else will give you that, because you're looking in the mirror, you're staring at the mirror and you're like, God, who is this person? You have to ask these questions.
Yeah, man.
You have to ask these tough questions, and if you don't ask these tough questions and you're not asking these tough questions, then you really don't know yourself.
Yeah. That's crazy, bro, because I don't know an artist who hasn't been afraid to really face themselves. And I feel like what hinders a lot of people for pursuing art is the fact that they don't want to embrace that boredom or that loneliness, because maybe they fear too much. I mean, maybe it could be their past, it could be their experiences, but people don't realize, like, you're supposed to use these experiences to create. You know what I'm saying? So you have to embrace them in a sense, And I remember, bro, in the Community Artist Collective downtown, I had my first solo exhibition, and first time I was like, wow, okay, this is great. But after the exhibition, because it was a success, after the exhibition, I like maybe 2-3 days passed by, and I just find myself really depressed and lonely, right? Because I had no idea what in the world what I was gonna do next. And I embraced it though. I didn't really I didn't eat all these comfort foods and everything like that. I really just tried to, I was so bent on trying to figure out what's wrong with me. And next thing you know, I took a trip to Galveston and just, looked through the ocean and everything. And I just started asking all these questions. I was like, man, what's it like on the other side of this ocean, man? What's over here,
Wow.
And then I was yo, there we go. This is what I want to do. And then I made a phone call and I was like, yo, bro, I want to leave the country, man. I want to do the same thing, but I want to get out the country. And he's like, yo, you should do that, man, and this and that. He said, but where you going to go? And then I was telling him where I'm going to go. And I was like, and then out of nowhere, the idea popped up again. Yo, matter of fact, before I go, I'm gonna learn the language before I go because I have to be able to talk to him. You know, I don't want a translator.
Right. There you go.
And
there
now,
you go. Exactly.
And now, bro, I can't stay. Like I can't even keep my mind off the project now, right? So like that boredom went for something to like I can't even like focus on anything else but that. So
yeah.
Man.
Well, see, it's a spirit, man. That spirit has to get you into the right mode in order to get you to the right destination, and that's the key. Most of the problems, that artists are saying, well, they're lonely. Like, no. That loneliness is going to allow that great spirit from wherever it comes from to speak to you in your head and get you into the right area, the right road, the right this, the right that. Right. So that has to happen. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, man.
That has to happen. You have to get direction, and the only way to get direction is loneliness in some cases.
True. Yeah, that's so true, man. Nice, man.
It's important. It's imperative. It's imperative.
Yeah. So I got about 2-3 more questions for you, bro.
Okay.
So let's see. The first question, the first one is, have you had any, as an artist, like scary experiences?
As you mean in an art business or what?
Art business. Because I know in my case, I've had some scary experiences as a photographer. Me being even when I went to Africa for the first time. I asked a guy if I can take his picture, and my Portuguese was really it wasn't. They knew I wasn't from there. They thought I was maybe from Brazil or Portugal or something like that. And And one guy, he had threatened to cut me because he thought I was like a journalist from Portugal trying to throw shade on of Angola, and that's why I was in Angola, and me having to like use my language, bro, to like convince this guy like, hey, no, actually I'm not from Portugal, like I'm just here to get to know my people more, I'm here to connect with people. And he slowly takes it was a pocket knife. He slowly, folds the pocket knife, puts it back in his hand, and then he asked me like, so how does this work? What do you want me to do? Like, and then after that, he was fully like cooperating with whatever it is I needed from him, But that was a scary moment for me at the time. But I realized, before I had left the States to go to Africa, I was so into this project that. I told myself I was almost willing to die for it. Just, I didn't want to, excuse me, I didn't want to stop doing what I love because of fear. Right. And once
there you go.
Yeah, bro. And once I had it confirmed, nothing really bothered me, really.
Yeah. It's kind of weird. That's kind of, I don't know. I guess that. I can explain it like this. I mean, once the spirit is right and when you're doing the right thing, it's gonna always kind of fall in place.
Definitely, yeah.
And it's never something that's gonna say, okay, well, it's weird, man. I really haven't had too many experiences that dealing with art when it comes to fear. I really don't. I didn't do too many things like that. But when I was younger, I mean, there's a lot of things that happened. I was doing some graffiti at night, and. There you go. Lo and behold, this one guy comes out yelling that N-word and telling me, well, you better get off my property. He has a shotgun.
Oh, wow.
So he's about ready to cock the gun and shoot. Wow. So here I am telling myself, okay, I have a choice. Either I'm going to go ahead and try to run and maybe get hit by a bullet, or I'm going to go ahead and talk to this guy. The crazy thing, that's some crazy stuff. You have to really face your fears in order to do some crazy stuff like that and go ahead and talk to the guy, tell him, hey, I didn't mean to. So I did what I had to do. Talk to the guy, tell him, this is something I'm terribly sorry. I'll come back in the morning. I'll wash it off. I'll do whatever I have to do with it. The crazy thing, he was, he didn't know what was going on. He thought we were trying to rob his area. So, and I told him, no, it's not the truth. That's not what's going to happen. We're gonna try to make everything right. So, I don't know. The world is so strange now, dude. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're gonna encounter all these scary things, but it's kind of like you said. You handle your business and you handle what you need to do, and it kind of falls in place.
Yeah.
For yourself, like I know you understand this. It's kind of like you're protected in a way when you're doing the right thing.
True. Yeah,
You know,
I firmly believe in that, bro.
If you're doing the wrong thing, you're not really protected by anyone. Because they can't. There's no way. But if you're doing the right thing, then you're kind of protected. So that's why I think about it. I'm gonna continue to do the right thing.
That's what it is, man.
And be protected.
That's a good way to put it, bro. And
thank you.
Yeah, man. So
these questions have been great, by the way.
Hey, bro. Hey, I was ready for this one, man. I was like, oh yeah, I'm about to interview someone who I feel is about to drop some gems. So.
There you go. Thank you.
Thank you, man. Yeah, definitely. So two more. What your favorite? Because I mean, you've done a lot of. From photography to I mean, you've done a lot, man. From what I'm seeing, bro. What has been? What would you consider to be one of your favorite pieces? And is it?
Ooh.
And
okay,
yeah, and is it available anywhere, or like where are these pieces at now?
Okay, my favorite pieces are not available yet to the public, but I'm actually in that process of making a book of them. I used to do these little sketches of my dreams. Every last dream that I had to sketch it. And I usually have some of the most interesting, most intricate dreams ever. So I'm making this entire sketchbook of all of my kind of works and all of my dreams and even nightmares that basically kind of, I created over the periods of years. Yeah. It's a big book. It's going to be a huge book, hopefully.
Yeah.
And what I'm going to do, I'm going to try to probably get it edited down to where actually I have about at least 40, 44 pages, and see if I can kind of just make it into like a little nice magazine or something where people can just see exactly about me. It has might have some of my writings and some of my sayings in it too.
Right.
But that's basically some of my favorite stuff. I mean, I love really getting deep into who I really am, and what I am. It gives me the pleasure to be able to share that. For a long time I haven't been able to share things like that. What's going on within inside of myself. But now I'm at an age where I can. I can kind of get out there and say, well, this is who I am.
Right.
And my experiences have taught me that too. So.
Nice,
man. I'm ready.
Hey, when that book come out, bro, I'll be the first one to get that, man, for real.
Oh, very cool.
Definitely, man. And cool, man. So this question right here is a question I always ask people at the end of the show.
Cool. Okay.
If you had news or word that you only had 365 days left on this planet, just hypothetically speaking, of course, because I definitely.
Well, you never know.
But,
you never know.
Yeah. But how do you? How would you change anything with your life? How do you envision the way you live life after hearing that?
I had the most. I can't lie to you, man. I had the most beautiful life. Even losing friends, losing loved ones. I mean, I would never change anything. Bad relationships, bad this. I wouldn't change a darn thing.
Wow.
Because whatever I've been through in my life, it shaped me to be the man that I am.
Man.
And if something shapes you to be the man that you are, you can't hate it. You can't say, no, this is wrong. I mean, you can't change it either.
Right.
So you have to embrace it and say, this is who I am, and this is what I am. This is what I'm proud to be, so that's where I'm at. I think that's a great question,
Yeah.
but the thing is, looking back, I mean, I've been through a lot of stuff, being poor, being, was really, really, really dirt poor, dirt sandwiches, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's I've been through it, but I've learned from every little thing that I've been through.
Right.
And I love it.
Great, man. Yeah, that man, that inspires me just hearing that, man.
No, thank you so much.
Bro, Saulso, man, man, this has been a very great interview, bro. I mean, wow. We'll have to do this again, man. I mean.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, man. And I know you're a busy man, and so I appreciate you taking the time out to allow me to interview you, man, and pick your brain on some things.
Cool, very cool. My brain is still picked, yeah. Very good question.
Oh, and by the way, let me hand the mic to you, man, and you can let the people know where they can reach you at. If you have anything going on, the mic is yours, bro.
Oh, okay. The only thing I really want to tell people is please love each other. That is it. we are down here together as people. We're down here as one, and if we can keep on with this wonderful vibe of being able to talk to each other, all colors, all races, understanding each other, all colors, all races, and just be in that moment with each other, we got something. You can reach me at Instagram if you want to. But I mean, I'm always open to be, to talk. You can always talk to me. I'm very open when it comes to that. Just email me at Saulso. But I mean, regardless of everything else, I mean, just know that this is what I'm about. This is who I am. I'm a person that loves connection, and I want to connect this entire world if I can, and do my part. In showing how important connection is.
Definitely.
Before I go.
For sure. Perfect, man. Perfect, bro. Well, man, look, I appreciate the interview, man. And, well, like I said, we got to link up and do a second one soon. But in the meantime, bro, I just want to keep wishing you the best of success, man, in your career as an artist.
Cool. Very cool.
Big time, bro. Okay, man. Well, we'll catch up then, man.
All right. Thanks, brother. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye. Bye.